back to Birmingham. So we're
now.
There we are. So last time we tried to do this, you had a bit of an accident, a bit of a motorbike accident, and you broke your collarbone. So please tell me you stopped racing.
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly sorry. It was silly of me to have tried to race 2 days before the event last time. So please excuse me for that, and I'm really sorry I didn't come last time. Interesting enough is I didn't stop riding, and because I've been riding since I was 3 years old, so it's difficult. I ride.
It's not riding. It's racing.
Well,
you
yeah,
race
well,
on motorbikes.
Well, for me, it's just riding. But I race through the hills. I race. It's motocross. It's like dirt bikes. And well, it was today is what's today? Today's Tuesday, right? No, Wednesday. Wednesday. So Sunday, I was riding, and I said, "Oh no, wait a second, Lorenzo. You have an event in Birmingham." And I'm like, so I swear, I actually let go of the throttle, and I said, I'm gonna go 60%. 60%. That's what I did. And here I am in one piece. Nothing happened. Look at me.
Well, at least your hands aren't valuable and worth millions.
My wife says, "What are you riding a motorcycle for? You're an artist. What are you riding a motorcycle for?" And she's right. She's right.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I'll check on the company insurance in the morning. So I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times before, but what was it like having the late great actor Anthony Quinn as your father?
That's funny because I've never been asked that.
Have you never?
Oh, no. Interesting. I don't know the answer to that. No, it was. There's good side and bad side to everything. So what was fantastic, gave me a great opportunity to meet incredible people. Of course, my father being one of them. He was an amazing character and really incredible person. I learned so much from him. But, growing up as a child, there's always that relationship father-son where, you always know more than your father. Which, of course, none of us ever do. Our fathers always know a lot more than we do. Now I'm trying to teach that to my children, but they know so much more than me, so I can't tell them anything. But the thing is that he had lovely friends around him. My father was 51 years older than me. So all his older friends, and I love to listen and learn. They have so much to teach you, and it was a great time growing up with my father. Now, on the other hand, though, because I was I wanted to be independent, and I got married very early when I was 22 years old.
Actually, can we just say, when you got married, you actually eloped. Is that correct?
Yes.
You actually eloped with, with your wife.
I've been married now for 30 years.
So it worked out okay.
It worked out. I married. I actually we just renewed the vows now in South Africa again, because when I eloped, we went to Niagara Falls. Because in the 50s, because we were living in New York City, in the 50s, that's where people used to go, so we went there. And now, on our 30th wedding anniversary, we did a safari with our children, and I decided to surprise her. And so we showed up at Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, and she's like, "Oh, look, someone's having a wedding. Look how nice it is." I'm like, "Yes, honey. You're having a wedding." And so she was very excited about that.
Oh, fantastic.
But she wasn't happy though.
No?
No, because she wasn't wearing the right stuff. She was in a safari. She's like, "You should have told me. Look how I'm dressed." Yeah,
Your hope is romantic. So growing up, did you want to be an actor or an artist?
Well, I was trying everything in the beginning. I was singing, I was acting, and of course I was painting back then. I wasn't sculpting back then. And then something incredible happened, because actually I was painting, I was madly in love with the art of Salvador Dali. And so I was a surrealist painter. And then I got offered the role of Salvador Dali, which I played. And
you won an award for, I believe, Best New Actor.
Best New Actor. And but I realized, of course, one thing I did realize after 3 months is that I wasn't Dali. That that there was a deli, and he was much better than me. Now that rhymes too. So I said, look, I have to do something different. I think an artist has to create. He has to create. He can't just copy and be a bad copy at that. So that's when I went into sculpting, and I haven't stopped ever since. You know, people ask me, why'd you give up acting? I think the great thing about art that acting doesn't give you is, first of all, closeness with people. You don't get that with acting because you're on a screen and you don't really get to see the people. Unless you're in theater, then theater is different. Theater is fantastic. But you're always interpreting somebody else's dreams. You know, as a sculptor, I'm interpreting my dreams. And also, I'm the only one to blame if something goes wrong, but at the same time, if a sculpture works, then it's my work. And it's a great way to create, for my children, a legacy. It's the day I'm not here, they can touch my sculpture and feel my hands through my work, which is something lovely.
You mentioned your family several times. You know, obviously family is very important to you. Where does this stem from?
Well, I come from a strong family background. My mother was Italian, and she passed away. We had 3 children. Of course, my father's a great believer in family. In fact, so much he had 13. People ask me, how many are you? I swear we're still counting. Every once in a while, I have somebody send me on Facebook, hey, I'm your brother, I'm your sister. In fact, I think I met one last week. I swear to God, he looks so much like my father. And I'm like, where was your mother in 1955? And he's like, in Spain. And she's, oh, my father was filming in Spain. So, yeah.
So when you sculpt, you know, the process is quite unusual. You know, you write a series of you write a poem, a series of words, and then you draw, and then you sculpt.
Right.
Why's that?
Each art piece that I make is really, it's a message. It's about the message. It's always been about the message. So first I have to know what I want to say. And which is not easy. And once I find what I want to say, then it's how I say it. So it's a materialization of a thought process, of a message. So my work is very symbolic. And therefore, the way I work is, first I say, okay, let's say I want to talk about decisions, or I want to talk about time flying, or family, or love, and so forth and so on. Then I have to say, what aspect of love? And I like to read. Unfortunately, nowadays we read less because of our phones and social media. But I still try to read as much as I can. And they're fantastic, I get fantastic ideas from it. And then I get ideas from people when I speak to people, and they come up to me and sometimes just say a phrase. I'm like, wow, that would be a great subject for a sculpture. And so then what I do is I jot down a couple of words. And from the words, from the adjectives, it usually sparks an image in my mind, and then I'll do a quick sketch, see if it works, show it to my wife, and if my wife likes it, then it's done. Yeah, which is that isn't the easy part, because she usually doesn't like it. Yeah, she's my toughest critic, and which is great. Because it's better to kill it right from the beginning if it's not good. But so sometimes I'll listen to her, sometimes I won't, and sometimes I'm wrong, and sometimes I'm wrong.
So did you talk to Giovanna about the fact that you wanted to get a tank and sail a tank up the Grand Canal? Did you not think that was a crazy idea?
I told her about that. And that she liked that idea, yeah. And she liked the idea of course, of Venice that I came up with. People say, how'd you come up with the idea of the big hands on the building?
Everybody knows the support piece, probably the most talked about sculpture in the world. And yeah. So how did you come up with an idea like that? And how do you, and let alone do it?
Well, It was my 50th birthday, and we were in Venice celebrating the 50th birthday. And the director of the hotel happens to be my cousin that we were celebrating my birthday at. And she said, well, she's married to my cousin. Her name is Lorenza. And Lorenza said to me, Lorenzo, why don't you think of something for next year's Biennale? And look, you have this hotel, it's on the Grand Canal, think of something. I don't know, put a little sculpture here or a little sculpture there. And I'm like, I actually have an idea. And she's like, oh, cool. What are you going to do? I'm like, I think I want to have two massive hands come out of the Grand Canal onto the building. What do you think? She's like, are you crazy? What are you talking about? You can't do that, not in Venice. You know, think about putting a sculpture here, a sculpture there. No. So anyway, I convinced her, and then she went and talked to the authorities, and we presented the idea to the Venice Biennale, and they rejected it.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
We got a letter of rejection. And so I could have decided, and that was on January 13th. And the Venice Biennale was in May of that same year, so January to May. So I could have either just let it go then, or do what I did, which say, look, the Venice Biennale doesn't own Venice. I can go to the mayor and see if he likes the idea and fight for it. So we did that. We went to the mayor. The mayor loved the idea, and but we weren't getting the permit. So he loved it, but in the Italian way, yeah, you'll do it. Don't worry, it's nice. But the date was coming. So at a certain point, there was a cutoff date where I knew that if we didn't start making them, even if we did get the permit, we couldn't do it in time for the opening of the Biennale. So that was 21 days before the Biennale. So I actually made the sculptures in 21 days. But in all fairness, it really wasn't 21 days because we were working 24 hours, 7 days a week. So it's 3 shifts. So we were really working a lot. So it's like it would be 90 days.
So you made the sculptures and they're huge.
Yeah.
With the possibility.
Oh, by the way, and we got the permit.
Yeah.
When we brought the hands, when they were at the canal, the morning that we were getting them installed, that's when we got the permit. So, I think it's in the video. You'll see.
Well, you may see. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
So a real leap of faith.
A real leap of faith.
See what I did there?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
That's another leap of faith.
Okay. So you like to use lots of materials in your work. So it's not just bronze. It's white bronze. It's marble. It's wood. Why do you like to use so many different materials? Because they're very difficult to work with.
Yeah, well, and actually, one of our any artists, especially sculptors, our enemies is gravity. So there are a lot of materials I would love to work with and I can't work with. So it depends really on the sculpture. But many sculptures, of course, in the beginning when I'm drawing them out, I already know what material I can use for them. I want to go back to using materials I haven't been using in a while. Like I want to do more marble, I want to do more wood. But for certain sculptures, of course, one material works better than another. For example, force of nature, I would love to do it in marble, but I can't. It would just break. It wouldn't work.
Gotcha. So your sculptures are based on the ideas of love, harmony, faithfulness, and maintaining the balance of life. Is that what you want to be remembered for? Those 4 things? So they always feature over and over and over again in your work.
I don't know how I'm going to be remembered. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the work I'm working on right now. Who knows if I ever will be remembered? But
there's a good chance. There's a good chance.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. No, but in all honesty, you don't think about that. In fact, as an artist, I think that any artist never really thinks that he's really accomplished anything. In the sense that you always think that you can do better, and I think that we always can do better. So in a sense, I'm never really completely satisfied with the work, but I think that that's good because it keeps me going.
But I think your work has probably more meaning than most artists, perhaps more meaning than any other artists. I really do.
Well, I'm not in competition with other artists, but I think that is what my art is. It's about communication. It's a conversation. It's a dialogue. It's not a monologue. I mean, I love meeting people and they tell me their stories and why they got the art, and it's like sharing. It's fantastic. It's amazing, and that's my drive. That's what drives me, is then the fact that I am able to have these conversations with people either through my art or with them directly. And one of the wonderful things is when you have public art, then you can have it at a grand scale. But I never want to forget, of course, the smaller pieces, so that people can have a sculpture of mine in the house as well. I mean, that's amazing, them living with my art. I mean, I'm so privileged, I'm so lucky, that's fantastic.
Thank you. On the, we've got quite a few of your rarer, older sculptures here today. Some I actually haven't seen for years, and I think they're the last of the editions. Of all the, I'm not going to ask you what your favourite is, but I am going to ask you, of all of your sculptures, which are Lorenzo icons in your mind?
Well, I don't know. There are some pieces I'm attached to more than others. Like obviously Hand of God, because the time I made it, and that kind of started the whole process of me putting the writings next to the sculpture. Right. The Hand of God is not. It's actually in the room here. It's probably Hand of God and Time Flies is the only texts which are not mine. But the Hand of God was so beautiful, and when I read it, I said I have to make a sculpture inspired by this fantastic poem. And so that kind of like started all that. And then I started explaining to my friends in the beginning what the sculpture meant, and they're like, "Oh man, you should actually write that down. I think people will like that if you write it and put it next to the art." So I started doing that. That's about 30 years ago. So I'm attached to pieces that kind of represent a specific moment in my life. For example, so Hand of God being one, Time Flies. It's the only sculpture. It's a sculpture my father passed away. I had a small one. I put it in the casket with my father. Gravity, A Force of Nature, of course. Four Loves. I loved Four Loves, and then there's a sculpture that I made. I told you briefly about it today, called The Stairs of Life, for example, that people don't know about it. I only made, it was an edition of 5, and luckily they sold a long time ago. I was still very young when I made it. I was like 24 years old, and it was a very symbolic piece. If you can imagine, it's 5 steps, so 2 leading up, then 1 at the top, then 2 coming down. And it's 3 figures, 3 male figures. And at the first step, there's a man running up, because when you're young, you have this knowledge, you have this hunger, for knowledge and success, and you want to get there fast. You don't know where you're going, but you just want to get there fast. And the first step, there was nails, because in the beginning, life is very difficult. On the second step, I put nuts and bolts and cogs, because that's when you start understanding how life works. At the top of the steps, there's another figure, and at the top of the steps, I put coins. But the coins are broken coins, because money doesn't make you happy. You have to have happiness within you. You have to find happiness elsewhere, not in money. Money can ease many things, but that's not what makes you happy. So at the top, there's this man that then he starts walking down. He has 1 foot on the lower step. And on that step, I put a lot of phrases, because that's that time in your life when you think of, you're looking back, you're looking forward, where did I come from, where am I going? It's the philosophy of life. And the last step, there's a man sitting there, an older man, with his arm stretched out, holding the other 2 back from running forward, saying, live each step of life, because life is very fragile, it can break at any moment, because he's sitting on the step where there's broken pottery. It's a very symbolic piece. And the first guy at the bottom, he has a hole in his stomach. That represents the hunger, the success, knowledge. And the guy at the top, he has a hole in his heart, compromising. You understand the compromise you have to make, and really it's about the heart, not about the money. And the guy sitting down, he has the hole here, realizing that this is much more important than that.
All right, okay. Cool. Are we ready with the video now, guys? See whether you can play the video at long last. Can we play the video? Hey, great.